Hello and good morning and welcome back to Simply Gregster EV. Today we finally are doing the review on my 2024 Fiat 500E. It's a car that we've had for roughly 4 months already and we finally have the chance to review it. And you get to join us here in beautiful downtown Montreal. Well, not this part. So come along with us and we'll get into everything we love and hate about the Fiat 500E. So this is it. This is the 2024 Fiat 500E. This car has been out in Europe for a few years, but now it's finally being offered here in Canada and the United States. And make no mistake about it, you know it's a 500. It doesn't look like anything else on the road. And it's nice to see compact EVs finally being sold here. But there is a bit of a story about why this car is for sale here, which we'll get into it. So this is 117 horsepower, 42 kilowatt hour battery, roughly 230 kilometers of rated range. But in my experience, it's closer to 260, 270. As I said, we've had this about 4 months and this car costs roughly $43,000 before any rebates. Actually, here in Quebec right now, there's a few of them under $30,000 with rebates. We'll just give it a walk around here like we always do. I think this car looks great. It looks so European. It cannot be mistaken for anything else but a Fiat 500E. Styling is awesome on it. And again, fully electric, underfloor battery, flat floor in the car. Your charging rates on this are going to be 85 kilowatt hour peak. In my experience, 8% to 80% is about 28 minutes. So it does charge relatively quick for what it is. A whole bunch of styling cues on here. You definitely know it's a 500. You have your little Italian flag here, which in Europe, these are either a turn signal or a side marker light. But for here, for specific lighting package reasons, we couldn't have that. There's a whole bunch of weird Europeanness on this car that I will point out as we go further into the video. As I said, this is an owner's review. We've had this car 4 months already. I find these wheels on the car quite lovely. It's sitting on 17s here. In Europe, there's 2 battery sizes. There's a 24 kilowatt hour battery and 16-inch wheels. We'll do 16s for winter time. Come along here to the car. You have your 500 logo and it's a 500E logo. On the back tail light, you have a little outline of the steeple in Turin, where this car is built. This car is built in Italy, and it says made in Torino. The car is full of these little Easter eggs. We'll have a quick look in the back hatch, which I will point out something else which no one has pointed out before in a review. Now, this car, the J1772 handle doesn't fit the slot because it's molded for a European Type 2 cable. So again, very Euro, very cool. I like little features like that. We'll fold that back up with the world's smallest parcel shelf. I think it's only there so you actually can't see inside. Again, super cool features on this car. Your charge port is here. Again, CCS and J1772. 7.6 kilowatt hour onboard charger. Again, peak charging rate on this car is 85 kilowatt hours. Average probably about 68, 67 kilowatt hours to get it up to 80%. Again, looks absolutely fantastic. And when this car was announced, I knew it was going to come over eventually with the fully spec'd out drivetrain, 42 kilowatt hour battery, 117 horsepower motor, because in Europe, as I mentioned, there is 2 types of drivetrain. And there's a couple trim options here that are available. They are selling a La Prima, which is closer to $50,000, and they're doing the JBL inspired by music edition. Sorry, it's really loud. I didn't think it would be this loud here. This is inspired by Red. It's part of Project Red, the whole blood program. I'm not getting into charities. I can't explain that well. But again, this car looks absolutely fantastic. Doesn't look like anything else on the road. Let's have a look inside the car. And if you remember, on the old 500s, the door handles would fall off, but this has a nice touch panel that opens. And here we are. Interior quality is pretty plasticky. It's, I would say this is below average for a car in this price point, but we'll explain the whole reason why this car actually made it here and why it's priced as such. You have more Easter eggs in here, made in Torino on here. Your door to exit the car is actually a push button, and you have an emergency release cable here. The seats are embossed in a nice Fiat pattern, which is quite good. Seats are actually quite comfortable in this car, and it's good cloth. I like cloth. And you have 500 red edition, inspired by red. We won't focus too much in the back. You could maybe kind of fit people in the back. I wouldn't go on a long distance. It's about the same amount of room as the Mini. Again, another 500 logo back here, but it could be used in a pinch. I actually think this interior is a bit bigger than the Mini Cooper. We'll get behind here and we'll point out another Easter egg. The 500E logo there. Your wireless charge pad has another Easter egg, the outline of Turin, which is really cool. So now that we're inside, this is a very nice steering wheel. It's a nice thin steering wheel. I like a nice thin steering wheel. Everything is laid out very well in this car. You still have traditional HVAC buttons. Your transmission control, your gear select is push button as well, park, reverse, neutral, drive. Takes a bit of getting used to, but once you're used to it, it's fine. If we look down here, sorry, I have all my wires here. So the USB-C 20 watts, USB-A, there's a second USB-A up here. You have your drive select modes. I'll explain that in a second. Your volume. You do have some drive select options. So we have Sherpa. Sherpa limits the car to 80 kilometers an hour, turns off all your climate control, all of that stuff. Then you have range mode. You have your range mode and you use the switch here. So range mode is full regen, full battery regen, one pedal driving, and you have a normal mode, which is very minimal regen, coast to a stop. I just keep it in the range all the time. There's no issues with that. I didn't think I would like this layout here, but I use it quite often. And also behind the steering wheel, there's buttons as well for volume and input select. I didn't think I would use those as well, but again, they are quite handy. SOS, assist up here. Quite a lot of headroom too in this car. As you see, I'm quite a big guy, as you see me in the rearview mirror. Again, quite a large glove box in here with a cool owner's manual bag. That's pretty fun. That's pretty cool. I like to see that. We'll close that up. Okay, let's not spend too much time in here because it will be a gigantically long video. So push button start, no instant on, and vehicle is ready to drive. Nice big center display in front of you on your cluster that's now showing maps, but there's quite a few different options in here. Those are for your messages, vehicle settings, for your cluster settings. This is your speedometer display, your power and regen, as I said. The Stellantis Uconnect system is the one that's impressed me the most that I've used. Very easy to use. Perhaps it's not the fastest, but it's very easy to use. So right now we're just in the electric vehicle settings. You have your driving history, your schedules, your AC charging level. Again, this is another EV where you can't set your charge level, but you can adjust your charging intensities. Your navigation takes a while to boot up the map, I find, especially if you're in a congested area like this with lots of buildings around. But it is nice and crisp display. This is all your HVAC comfort settings on here. Again, you can either use it through the screen or you can use it through buttons. I mostly use it through the buttons, your heated seats and all of that stuff. This is your media. The sound system in this car, it's okay. As I said, they have an inspired by music, which is a better JBL sound system. But I mean, for what this car is, it's all right. We're not going to spend too much time talking about the sound system. Satellite radio enabled, all of that stuff. I'm not going to go to home because it's connected to CarPlay, but we will go here to CarPlay quickly. As you can see, pretty nice interface with CarPlay, and it works fairly well. I mean, it's pretty quick. It works fairly well. The screen works well. I'm very impressed with the Uconnect system. I wish I could explain more about it. We could even go to the there's apps up here. There's your apps here, categories. it just works well. I'm very happy with it. For a system from Stellantis, I'm really impressed with Uconnect. Let's have a look under the hood. We'll go back outside, have a look under the hood. I've actually not been in here a lot. There's really no reason to go in here. I haven't even put washer fluid in. Again, this is your drive unit. You have your inverter up here, 117 horsepower. Unfortunately, no under hood storage. There's a couple aftermarket companies that make a tray that slides in this area, but it's like 200 euros, and I'm not spending 200 euros on that. Again, brake, it's a brake-by-wire system. That's pretty common on Stellantis vehicles these days, especially on the Alfa Romeos and Fiats. Well, everything looks good under here. I mean, can't really say much here. Your fluid recommendations are all Petronas, so if you're a Mercedes Petronas F1 fan, that will make you feel all nice and warm and fuzzy. We'll close this back up. Again, it looks absolutely fantastic. It looks so Euro, it looks so cool, and this is kind of why we bought it. Now you're probably asking yourself, why did you spend almost Model 3 money on a Fiat 500E? Well, we didn't. We leased this car. I don't think I would buy this car for actual cash. On a lease, it's great, a pretty good lease deal. It's about $350 a month we're paying. We did put some down, but not a lot. And a lot of people have pointed out that this car is a bit odd to sell here. Why would they sell this car? Well, what happened was they're only bringing about 1,100 or 1,200 of these cars into Canada, and they had to do that to kind of offset emission fines, because all Stellantis sells is Jeeps and Rams, and they have gigantic engines, and they had to lower their corporate average down, their corporate emission average down. So that's why we ended up with this car here. It was kind of like a settlement deal. But just be happy we got it, because normally we don't get anything interesting, we don't get anything fun in North America. We always get the shaft. And again, a lot of people have commented, Greg, why would you get a car that has drum brakes in the back? Well, it's an EV, it's in regen all the time. It's not really a big deal. Nothing like that. I mean, we don't really use the brakes too often. Even on the Mini Cooper, it's always in regen. But the price point on this car, as I said, here with rebates, it comes to about 30,000. They're already starting to sell them for under 30,000. I saw a few last night for around 29, 28.9, 29.9. So I think they're having a hard time selling these cars here, even though this is a very good market for them. So this is actually the cheapest EV in Canada right now. If you live in Quebec or British Columbia, it's the cheapest EV. Enough about that. You know, I like cool cars, interesting cars, quirky cars, and this is pretty much one of the quirkiest EVs that you can buy here. So let's go for a drive and we'll actually see what it's like. So again, this is a urban car. Everyone's always commenting that it doesn't have enough power, but 0 to 100 in about 8 seconds in an urban environment, it's more than enough. I don't think you really need more than that. It is a city car at the end of the day. You're not out there breaking land speed records. I mean, it's pretty quick. We'll just give it some gas up here. Yes, I still say the gas or throttle. That's what happens when you've been indoctrined for many years. This is a lovely car to drive in urban areas, and this is kind of what it was built for. Actually, this is exactly what it was built for. It wasn't meant to go on long trips. I know the price point puts a lot of people off with the 500E, but again, here after rebates, it's under $30,000. You can't really buy anything for under $30,000 here. Handling and ride, well, the ride's pretty choppy. It has a solid beam axle in back, or semi-independent as they call it. It is quite choppy, it is on low profile tires, but the handling is quite good for what it is. I mean, this is a city car at the end of the day. As we come around these little corners and hit that bump, it does get a bit jarry if you hit a bump mid-corner, but that's just a product of the type of car that it is. It doesn't feel unstable or uncomfortable. It's just how it rides. It rides stiff. I've watched a few reviews already where I think they were just reading the spec sheet. Yes, 117 horsepower and 165 foot-pounds of torque doesn't sound like a lot in 2024, but this car is well under 3,000 pounds. And it's not going through a 3-speed automatic transmission from the 1980s. This car is plenty quick. 0 to 100 about 8 seconds. It goes really good. And this is a city car at the end of the day, and it's electric, so that power is instant. There's no revving out the engine, waiting for your 3-speed automatic to downshift and upshift. There's none of that. It's instant power, and it's so easy to drive. You could drive it with one finger. Like, yeah, the ride might not be the best in the world, but this is still a very, very cool car to drive and a very fun car to drive, because there's just power on tap the entire time, and it's an absolute riot to drive. In a lot of cases, this car's a lot more fun than the Mini to drive. That Mini Cooper, I love it too, but it's just a bit too German. It's a bit too Teutonic in its approach. This is Italian. This, put the windows down, put your arm out the window and enjoy yourself driving. This is what it's all about, and I have a huge smile on my face just explaining it now, driving on this random city road going back home. It's absolutely fun. It's so much fun. You really have to go and try one, and you will fall in love with it. It will work its magic over on you. Don't look at the price. Don't look at the spec sheet. You have to drive this car because it will put a big smile on your face. And you know what? Everyone I've taken for a drive in this car, or who's driven this car, has said the exact same thing. It put a gigantic smile on their face. And this is what's lost with driving these days, that fun element. As I said, this car, cool to drive, but it has a soul, it has passion. It is a pretty comfortable place to sit. We have done a couple road trips in this car. Charging on it is excellent. Perhaps the efficiency is not the greatest. This is a very tall car. It cuts a big hole through the air, and I also find sitting inside of it, you're kind of towering over everybody else. Compared to our Mini. We'll do a full comparison between both cars. That's just something I want to put out there, that perhaps the driving position isn't quite the greatest, because you could see into everybody else's cars and you're kind of sitting up high. For you, this is really built as a city car. I keep saying that because so many other reviews, they get too hung up on power, acceleration times, what's the maximum range that you can get, and then on the other hand, they're also complaining that there's never any small EVs. While this might not be an affordable EV for many, depending on where you live, this is a cheaper option here after the rebates, which are ending soon. But again, it's a small EV. It's what everyone wants, just not at the price point. But if you're leasing it, it's not too bad. So I would suggest going the lease route, getting a lease deal on it, and just enjoying it for what it is. Even if you don't live in a city, you can still use it as a second car. It's a perfectly fine car for that job. If you're just doing short commutes in the suburbs or whatever you're doing, it's a great car at the end of the day. And we're just going to pull over here and we'll give some final thoughts on the 500E, because otherwise this could be an hour-long video. But we will bring that as we go on. We've had the car 4 months, and I finally got around to reviewing it. Everything else came in the way. We'll do the range test, we'll do the charging test as we pass by more EVs and EV charging, because we are in Montreal. So we'll pull over and we'll give some final thoughts. So just some quick final thoughts on the 500E. As I said, I love driving this car. I love having it. Perhaps the buying experience at the Stellantis dealer wasn't the greatest, but apart from that, it's cool that we got this car. We're always complaining we never get anything really European here, or really anything interesting. We finally did. I don't think they're going to bring a car like this here ever again, actually, unless they have more emission fine problems. Super cool, super interesting to drive. And it doesn't look like anything else. All these EVs that we feature on this channel, they always look like they get squeezed out of a bottle of toothpaste. They're just squeezed out and blah. This is actually interesting. It's an interesting car. It's a fun car. Perhaps a bit overpriced for what it is, but we've explained that. This is still an expensive car to produce. This is still an expensive car in Europe. They're facing more increased competition, especially from Chinese manufacturers in Europe at the moment that offer better value. But as I said, just the fact that we got this car here, it's good enough for me. Super cool car to drive, cool car to own. I keep saying that, and it has every Italian stereotype. There's so much style and flair and just soul. It has a soul. It's a rare EV that has a soul. It just wants to be driven. It wants to be chucked around corners. It wants to be driven quickly. It's always an event driving this car, and that's what I love about it. So if you're interested, go out and get one. I'm pretty sure you could snag one on the cheap and enjoy yourself. That's what this car brings. It brings enjoyment. It brings driving fun. And I hope that you enjoyed watching. And if you made it this far, please think about liking and subscribing, and perhaps going out and getting a Fiat 500E. We'll see you in the next video.